What's up, everybody? We're back at it again with a new listing here in Manchester, Connecticut by the Burke team at Coldwell Banker Realty. Today, we're going to be touring this new home. It's in an amazing, quiet neighborhood on the east side of Manchester, which is adjacent to Bolton, Connecticut. We're just under a mile to Buckley Elementary School, 2 miles to the Illing Middle School and the high school, 15 minutes from downtown Hartford, and just under 30 minutes to Bradley International Airport. Now, if you're not familiar with the east side of Manchester, let me tell you, there's a famous local retro 1950s ice cream diner, which is literally a stone's throw away from here, and you're gonna be familiar with it. They're famous for their burgers, fried cheese, and certainly their ice cream. And as my daughter would say, I eat their hot fudge by the spoonful, and I can't agree more with her. It's absolutely amazing. So in addition to touring this home, we're gonna be discussing some of the benefits to FHA financing versus conventional financing. And after that, I'll break down what the affordability factor is in purchasing this home if you were to consider it. You definitely don't want to miss this, and we're getting after it right now. If this is your first time on the channel, want to know everything there is to know about living in Hartford, Connecticut and the surrounding area, then subscribe below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about the current market in the greater Hartford area. Hi, I'm Brian with the Burke team at Coldwell Banker Realty. We get calls and emails every single day from people like you looking for help on making a move to Manchester, Connecticut, and we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. You can even schedule a Zoom call with me as well. All my information is in the description below, so I can help you make a smooth move to the greater Hartford area. So as I was mentioning, we're gonna be touring this new listing here at 53 Indian Drive. It's a ranch style home. It has 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms. There's 1,400 square feet on the main level, an additional 642 square feet in the lower level. That totals out to be around 2,000 square feet. Now, this property does have a wood burning fireplace in the living room, an additional pellet stove in the family room, 2-car garage, hardwood floors, a bay window that allows a ton of natural light inside. It also has a new furnace, new roof, and solar. The solar also helps out with the utilities, as you may know. Now, this home was built in 1958 and comes on 0.36 of an acre. We're listing it at $299,000, and that breaks out to be about $215 a square foot. Now, in comparison, if you consider all the homes that have sold over the past year that are relatively similar in criteria, all ranch-style homes built between 1920 and 1980, 3-bedroom to 4-bedroom type homes, there's actually only 1 property on the market right now. So if you were to consider putting your property on the market, there's literally no competition. And that's why we have the demand the way we do today. And looking at 6 under deposit properties and 29 homes that have sold between $250,000 and $350,000. That puts the median value at $290,000. And with some houses selling above $330,000, that puts this list price in a very competitive situation to hopefully generate a lot of activity, a lot of interest to push the value up and above the $299,000 price point we have. And the kicker to all this, the median average days on market for ranch style homes in Manchester, 5 days, literally 5 days. And that's why we're in the market we're in. That's why we're in such a competitive market when you put your house on the market, and why homes are selling for way more above the list price. And that's the reason why. It's just that we haven't satisfied the housing shortage that we're in today. And ranch style homes satisfies a lot of different buyers, move up buyers, downsizing buyers. It just creates for a competitive market overall. All right, so let me put on my sunglasses because it's starting to get a little bright here. So before we go inside, I want to take you around the exterior and discuss some of the benefits to FHA financing versus conventional financing. And one of the biggest misconceptions about FHA financing is that it's only for a first-time home buyer, and that is just not the case. Whether you are a first-time home buyer or whether you've purchased many homes in the property, if you qualify for FHA financing, then it may be a benefit to you. Of course, talk to your lender to see what works best for you. So some of the benefits to an FHA financing type product is that you can have a higher debt to income ratio, which is basically you can have a FICO score as low as 580, whereas conventional, it starts at 620. So if you're below 620, FHA might be the product for you. A lot of times with FHA, you can have a lower down payment, of course, because you're only required to put down 3.5%. The interest rates, of course, if you have decent credit, will be a little bit less. In the PMI, the monthly mortgage insurance, will be slightly less as well. Now again, the FICO score for FHA starts at 580 and goes up, and conventional is at 620. And one of the other cool items with a FHA product is that if you're looking for a multifamilies normally with conventional, you're required to put a minimum of 5% down. But with FHA, you can jump into that sale at 3.5% down to make it a little bit more affordable for you. So one of the other factors you really need to consider when you're going in the FHA direction is the cost associated with getting that type of loan. Now there's two different expenses. One is an upfront fee, and the other one is your monthly fee going forward with the life of the loan. So the upfront fee is at 1.75 of the mortgage amount, which you can either pay as a one-time payment at the time of closing, and the second is the monthly payment that you'll be making over the life of the loan. Now, in order to qualify for an FHA loan, you're required to put down a minimum of 3.5%. However, if you were to put down less than 10% of the purchase price, then you're going to pay that mortgage insurance over the life of the loan. So you'll be paying that as long as you keep that loan and you don't refinance. Now, if you were to go FHA and put down more than 10%, then you're required to pay that monthly mortgage insurance at least 11 years, and after 11 years it goes away unless you decide to refinance. But again, talk to your lender to see what works best for you. And if you really wanted to get granular and figure out exactly what your PMI payment would be, you can look at 3.5% down, you're looking at 0.55% per 100,000. And if you're putting down greater than 5%, then it's at 0.5%. So you're saving 0.05% per 100,000. Feel free to do your calculation on your own, but those are questions that I always get asked, and maybe it'll be helpful for you. So one of the things I like to do when I meet with a new seller is walk around the property, find out what their goals are, and discuss any deficiencies with the property, find out if they have a budget for making any repairs, because when you start considering FHA, it's better to understand how the property would qualify for certain products before you get into a long road and then have to back out because something didn't qualify later on down the road. So let's take a look around this property and see where this property fits for FHA. So as you're walking around the home with the seller, one of the things you need to take into consideration is if they have a budget and some of their goals in order to sell the house for their top dollar. So not everybody wants to invest money into a house, so therefore you need to take into consideration the condition of the home. So one of the things I like to do is walk around the property, get a better sense as to what the property condition is. So if a buyer was to come forward with this particular property with an FHA type of loan, I'm going to be looking at this home in a different light than I would if it's a conventional type of buyer. Because a lot of times what happens is an appraiser, when they come out, even if the buyer is willing to overlook certain things, the lender's going to require those guidelines to be satisfied before they can actually purchase. So one of the things that an appraiser will look at that's very typical is the age of the roof. Now within this particular property, the roof is new, there's solar panels on it that were just recently put on, so we don't necessarily have to worry about the roof. However, if you look at a roof that is older, something that's buckling, missing shingles, just something that looks dilapidated, stains on the interior ceilings, that type of roof will be flagged and it will need to be replaced before the buyer can actually take ownership of the property. Another factor is staircases. Now, a lot of homes have staircases into the home, and if you kind of look at this one here, one of the things I ended up doing about a month ago when I met with the seller is that this particular staircase has more than 3 steps. So if you have more than 3 steps, you're going to require a railing, or an appraiser would require a railing to be installed. So one of the things, if you notice here, there's 2 different colors, is I actually had the seller add a railing to it so that it would qualify if an FHA buyer was to purchase this home. You only need it on one side of the staircase. The other factor is chipping paint. Now, chipping paint can come in all sorts of factors. That could be on the exterior of the home, the interior of the home, trim, the stairs, the deck, the railings, anything. So this home does not have vinyl siding, so we have to look at it a little bit more closely. This particular home, if you look at the front of it, looks relatively decent, but when you start investigating it a little bit further, you start to see some bubbling in the chipping, some bubbling in the paint from like this type of factor, some missing pieces. Now, this may be overlooked. However, you also need to look at the window cells, You have to look at the brick molding around the doors. You also have to look at even as simple as a fence post here with this chipping paint right here. So technically an appraiser can come out here and flag that. When you also look at the railing system here, you see the chipping iron. That's also would be flagged and would have to be repaired. And when you start coming down here to the brick molding of the house, if you get down close here, you start to see some more chipping paint down here. So any appraiser will look at that and they'll flag it. And that type of work would need to be done prior to closing. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to close. So the workaround to that is, well, right now you obviously see the sun. Yesterday was 70 degrees. It's starting to warm up today. But about 2 weeks ago, we actually had about 18 inches of snow on the ground. You wouldn't know that. But when you're in the winter, it's very difficult to paint a home during the cold season. So there's the workaround to that is you would have to get a contractor out here, get a price for what it would cost to get those repairs done. And then the lender may allow you to escrow or hold back money until that work gets done. So typically, if they were to do an escrow holdback, the lender would require 125% of the cost to get those repairs done. So in this particular case here, I did have that conversation that if a buyer did come in, it's something that we could consider, something that we could escrow money in order to have the exterior of the house painted. Now, one of the other difficult spots is if you can kind of see up there on some of the eaves and even the soffits, there's a lot of chipping paint that takes place there. Let me walk you over to another part of the home that you'll be able to see it in a little bit more detail. Now, of course, I'm trying to do this with some people down the street cutting down a tree and I almost tripped there. I guess they're deciding to cut down a tree and chop it up right as I'm doing this. But let me show you. Oh, so here's another piece here. So even like the foundations and stuff, the foundation had been painted at one point, but if that was chipping, the lender would definitely flag that and you would have to have that replaced as well. When you come to this side of the house, this side is actually the worst side. So when you start looking at some paint like this, that's all coming apart and chipping, this all here would be flagged, especially like some of the soft spots. If you can kind of see that right here, all this stuff would need to be repaired. This would all need to be scraped, cleaned up, and repainted, if not replaced, because it's very, very soft. It's just something to consider when you're walking around a house. Like this side is relatively good. So another piece to this is the deck. A lot of times you'll have decks that have been painted, railings that have been painted. A lot of times those need to be scraped, cleaned up, and painted as well. It's just something to consider when you're looking at homes. So my point that I'm trying to make is that if you're working with an inexperienced agent and you're walking around the homes and you don't know the condition or what would be flagged with certain types of products that are out there for lending, you could advise a seller to accept an FHA or even a VA type of loan, not knowing that this house will be flagged once an appraiser goes in there. So imagine you're packed up, you're ready to move, 30 to 45 days later, an appraiser goes in, they flag these issues, and your seller goes, well, I don't have the money to fix those. Or the buyer says, you know what? I don't have the money to fix that either. I'm gonna walk away. So now the buyer can walk away. You're now stuck with having to relist the home and you're not gonna be able to sell it. Now the seller's gonna have to start all over again. And in this particular market, sure, it's competitive and there's likely a lot of buyers still interested, but at the time you list the home, if you have a handful of buyers that are all putting in offers and you accept the offer that is much higher just because of the price and not considering the type of financing, you may be starting the process again and losing out on all those other potential buyers that may have had a better offer, better terms, and you would have been able to close within a reasonable amount of time. Now, 30 to 45 days later, you got to start the process again. It's definitely something to consider. Something that I always do with my clients is walk around the house, take a look at the condition, and make sure that I understand what I'm getting myself into, make sure that the seller understands what they're getting into with certain types of loans. And then once those offers start to come in, then it's to have that conversation with the seller to say, hey, you know what? This offer is definitely stronger. However, it's an FHA buyer. This house has chipping paint. This house needs a new railing system. This house needs a new roof. And you need to be aware that if you were to consider those offers and accept those offers, it's very likely that an FHA appraiser is going to flag those. And if you don't know the workarounds, if you can't get that stuff done, you're not going to be able to sell the house. So why accept an offer like that if you can't move forward with it? You're just going to have to start the process again. So getting connected with the right agent right from the beginning that understands the process, that's something that, I take wholeheartedly with. I don't sugarcoat anything. I make sure that you have full disclosure of everything that could possibly go wrong, or at least in my experience, having been in business for 18 years, that you're going to know how to be able to accept the right offer and close, and then move on with your life. So those are some of the things that you should consider when you're looking at homes with an FHA product. Hopefully that was helpful. So what do you think about the information I just shared with being an FHA buyer? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And if you have questions, like I said, feel free to reach out at any time. I'd be happy to discuss that with you. And I work with a close mortgage friend of mine. His name is Don Valentes. And if you have any other specific real estate needs regarding the lending side of it, I'd be happy to give you his contact information. And I'll be putting his information in the description below. So if you have any questions or would like to reach out to him, feel free to do so as well. All right, so now let's go check out the interior of this home. All right, so that was the interior tour of 53 Indian Drive. What do you think about this home and what it has to offer for $300,000? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And if you live in town and love the area, I'd also love to hear from you as well. So what I've done is I've included a link in the description below. So if you have any questions or would like more information about this home, you'll be able to access it right there. And up next, we're going to do a quick tour around the neighborhood. And after that, we'll jump into my computer so I can show you where this property is located in relation to all the other amenities that Manchester has to offer. And as I mentioned, after that, we'll walk through the affordability and I'll break down exactly what your monthly mortgage payment would be if you were to purchase this home. Let's go check out the neighborhood. All right, so now that you had a chance to tour the home and tour the neighborhood, let's talk about affordability and how that impacts you from a monthly mortgage payment standpoint. So from a simplicity standpoint, let's just use a purchase price of $300,000. Now, interest rates today for conventional loans are at around 7%, and with good credit and with some other factors, let's just say that they're slightly less, or about 1/4% less, so 6.75. So we'll use those factors in calculating out what your monthly mortgage payment would be. Now, in order to purchase an FHA type of home, you would need to put down a minimum of 3.5%. 3.5% of $300,000 is $10,500. So when you subtract $10,500 from $300,000, you're left with a net of $289,500. Now, if you went to a mortgage calculator and you were to put in those factors, $289,500 with an interest rate of 6.75, you would be at about $1,878 a month, so $1,878 a month. Now, there's some other expenses to purchasing a home, one being mortgage insurance. Because you're putting down less than 20%, you're going to be required to pay that PMI or mortgage insurance. So as I mentioned to you before, we calculated out the mortgage insurance to be about $165 extra a month. Now, property taxes for this particular home are at $6,086 a year. So that breaks it out to be about $507 a month. So in addition to that, you'll have homeowners insurance. Now, again, depending on where you are in credit factors, that sort of thing, we'll just use a simple number of $2,000 a year. That breaks it out to be about $167 extra a month. When you look at everything in totality, your principal and interest at $1,878, your PMI at $165, your property taxes at $507, and your homeowner's insurance at $167 a month, that totals out to be $2,717 a month. So that would be your monthly mortgage payment for this particular property if you were to move forward with it. Now, a lot of people also ask me what it would take to drop that payment to make it a little bit more affordable. So again, based on certain factors, if you were to take for every $10,000 extra that you put down on your mortgage, you would save about $60 extra a month. So for every $10,000, you'll save about $60 a month. So you should be able to consider that if you're looking to reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Now, one of the interesting factors is that I looked at other homes that have been rented across town. Again, all similar factors, single family home, similar age, 3 to 4 bedrooms. And over the past year, out of 21 homes that have been rented, single family homes, the median price point for a rental in town is around $2,400 a month. So if your monthly mortgage payment, where you're actually putting money in towards the investment of this property, is at $2,700, and your median price point for a rental is $2,400, you can see where you're just throwing money away relatively at the same price. And there's actually been a lot of homes that have rented out over $3,000. So if you look at a monthly rental payment of $2,500 a month over the course of 12 months, you're throwing away $30,000. It's just something to consider. Obviously, everybody's needs and their desires are different, but if you wanted to invest and have that money come back to you at a later time, it's just something to consider. And if you wanted to look into this further and see what works best for you, I have a personal lender that I work with on a regular basis. I refer him out to all my clients. His name is Don Valentis. He works for Movement Mortgage. He's been in the business for quite a long time. He is a great resource of information. So if you'd like to contact him, please see that I included his information in the description below, and feel free to reach out to him at any time. He's a great resource and he'd be happy to help you and get you going in the right direction. All right, so now that we're in Google Maps, let me show you exactly where Manchester is located within Connecticut. So what you'll see is that Hartford is located right in the center of the state there, and Manchester is just out to the east side right there. Now, Springfield, Massachusetts is just north of us, about 45 minutes or so. You have New York City, which is about 2 hours to the south. You have Providence out to the east, and then certainly Boston, Massachusetts, which is just under 2 hours depending on traffic. Now, zooming in on Manchester itself, you're going to see it represents this highlighted area right here, which is approximately 27.7 square miles. Now, the interstates that service Manchester are Interstate 91, which runs north and south. You have Interstate 84, which runs west to east. You have Interstate 384, which just runs to the south of Manchester, which then branches off into Route 6 and Route 44, servicing everybody else on the east side of the state. And of course, you have Interstate 291 right there. And if you're looking to go to the airport, it's approximately 30 minutes away up here in Windsor Locks, just northwest of our location. And then, of course, downtown Hartford is a quick 10 to 15 minute ride, depending on where you are in Manchester. Now, zooming in on Indian Drive itself, as I mentioned, we are more located on the east side of town, and Indian Drive is located right in this location right there. Now, this is the town line. You have Bolton right there, and of course, this is Manchester all out this way. Now, Buckley Elementary School is located just a couple streets over. They have approximately 300 students that attend there. The student-to-teacher ratio is 10 to 1. Now, the Manchester High School is located just to the west. They have approximately 1,700 students with a student-to-teacher ratio of 11 to 1. Now, the middle school is located right there, and the police department is right there. So in traveling a little bit further west, you're going to see the Manchester Memorial Hospital, which is right off of Middle Turnpike East, right there. Now, some of the other notable locations in Manchester, like I mentioned, was Shady Glen, which is right there. If you're interested in their fried cheese, their burgers, and certainly their ice cream, that is definitely the go-to place. It's a staple in town and has been for quite a while. Now, heading just south of our location, you're going to run into Case Mountain, which is right there. That is a very popular destination for people that want to hike, they want to bike, and at the top of the mountain, they have spectacular views of the Hartford skyline. Now, just a word of caution, if you're going to bike that mountain, the initial part of the trail is at such an incline for about a quarter of a mile, so that will definitely test whether you're an athlete or not. Now, heading over west just a little bit further here, you have Charter Oak Park. Now, Charter Oak Park underwent a $2 million renovation back in 2017. They improved the existing infrastructure, their basketball, their softball, their tennis, soccer fields. They have a lot of jogging trails over there. They have bathrooms. They have a playground right there. And in the winter, they actually flood an area where you can actually ice skate. It's actually a pretty sharp place to go to. All right, now adjacent to Charter Oak Park, you have downtown Main Street right there. Now, if you're not familiar with Main Street itself, they have a lot of restaurants and bars and breweries down there, as well as some shops. Now, back in 1927, they started the Manchester Road Race, which now attracts over 10,000 participants to run every year. It's approximately a 4.7 mile run, which essentially heads down Charter Oak, up this way, comes back on Porter, over onto East Center Street, and then back down Main Street. So there's kind of the loop of the road race there. Now, this race is second to the Boston Marathon, and that it benefits muscular dystrophy research as well as other charities. So you also have, like I mentioned, you have the Labyrinth Brewery right there. You have the Silk City Coffee Shop located right there. You have the Urban Lodge, which is located right in this area here. Now, also adjacent to downtown Main Street in the southern side of Manchester is that you have the Cheney Homestead. Now, if you're not familiar with the Cheney family, back in 1838, they started what became the world's largest silk mill, which was an integral component of not only the economy, but the success of Manchester itself at the time. Now, heading further west into Manchester, you have Wickham Park, which is located right there, which abuts East Hartford. Now, Wickham Park consists of approximately 280 acres of open fields, ponds, gardens, picnic areas, and they also have a lot of sporting facilities over there. It does cost some money to get in there, but it's definitely a place that you can go with your family to relax and enjoy the day. Now, heading just northwest of our location, you're going to run into Buckland Hills and the shops at Evergreen Walk, as well as the Buckland Hills Mall. That's right up in this location here. That's the Buckland Hills there. You also have the Evergreen Walk, which is located right there. They have a number of hotels and restaurants and all the shopping that you could possibly need. Now, according to niche.com, the median home value in Manchester is approximately $195,000, or on a national level, it's $280,000, and the average household income in Manchester is just over $73,000. I hope you found this helpful, and that wraps up the map tour. All right, so that was a full tour of my new listing at 53 Indian Drive, the Manchester community, benefits of FHA financing versus conventional financing, and what you can find for homes in and around the $300,000 price point in town. So if you're looking to move to Manchester or the surrounding area, have questions about this home or any other, would like to schedule a showing, or just reach out, again, all my information is in the description below. And again, my name is Brian from the Burke team at Coldwell Banker Realty. I hope you found this video helpful, and thank you for taking the tour with me. We help people move here every single day from out of state, within Hartford, Connecticut, whatever your case may be. We're happy to help you make a smooth move to the greater Hartford area. And until next time, hope to show you around town.